we all should be fighting for, because if we don't, then there's no point in going out the front door tomorrow morning. I pray that everybody listening to us right now will get that message, get on their knees, find the Lord of their salvation, and get up off their knees with a purpose that they will begin to do what they should have done a long time ago and get this country back on its feet.
Wow. Well, I want to share something with you guys. Now, Greg, you've been in the military, so the Joint Chiefs of Staff is a pretty important position, correct?
Yes.
Now, well, Admiral Thomas Moore was a fan of mine because, and I want you guys to know this, so for someone who's accused of being full of, S all the time by these shills on the boards, and by the way, I got to share this with you. Admiral Moore told Sue Bradley, who was one of his, lead researchers, he said in those days, this is 11 years ago, actually probably closer to 15 years ago, that I was the only guy telling it like it really was. Now, when he wrote Unrestricted Warfare in 1999, I'm talking about the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, so all you little piss ants, to quote Gene Scott, back off. He said financial warfare. He said psychological warfare, media warfare, resource warfare, drug warfare, smuggling warfare, and cultural warfare not only would be integrated, but international law warfare and ecological warfare. Now, this is a guy that was ahead of the entire military, and the thing is he said, look, he told Sue, he said, Sue, there are a lot of people telling it out there, and people now who are on big names on talk radio who wouldn't let me go on their show years ago and talk about this stuff are now talking about it, but they forget that they put the kibosh on me to talk about it. That's why I don't do guesting on very few shows, you guys. And I want to thank you, Joe, and you, Doug, and especially Greg. Listen, I know Greg. We've sat, we've broke bread, we've seen eyeball to eyeball, okay? And I can tell you this, that, and Greg, I say this not as flattery, but I am so glad you are one of the only people in the years I've been on talk radio to ever stand up with me and for me. Now, why is that important? I'll tell you why. Because, look, all you people that sit in the chat rooms, whether you're on Omega Man or this one or whatever that are out there, you've got to ask yourself, if people are pleading and putting their lives in danger and putting their entire essence on the line, then what do these devils that have a microphone do in the chat rooms? You've got to ask them that. But if you can't stand up, here's what I want to say, Greg. Maybe you have an answer for me. Maybe you do, Doug or Joe. Throw it out there. If people won't stand up for people who are standing up for Jesus, what makes the Christians think they go into the camp and be these wonderful witnesses? They're not going to get a chance. I mean, some of the, I will not post some of the prophecies that Brother Bob and others have had. Even Julia's was horrific on my front website, and people say this is all just nonsense, that we're trying to sell fear, to sell food. Listen, the food situation's so dire. I am intimately connected with the food business. I know what's available on a world market on a given day, and it's so shallow, you guys. So when I tell people, get your food, this is the last chance you're going to have, people say, oh, you're just selling fear to sell your food. I'm saying get it wherever you can get it. But know this, if you go to Walmart, you're being filmed, and you're being, every purchase you make is tracked. If you go to Costco, the same thing. The thing I'm telling everybody is, look, Doug Hagman talked to a DHS guy. He said they're going to starve you into submission. How dumb unto death can you get to resist that? It's insanity, Greg. It's insanity.
Steve, I couldn't agree more, and thank you because of your continue. You see, Steve Quayle is the kind of guy that will not faint. He will just won't quit, and I admire people like that. So that's why he and I are such close friends. But beyond that, Steve and Doug and Joe, I'm going to tell you, I have talked to the people at the co-ops in the Midwest states. The foreigners have been in trying to buy up crops in advance. They've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years. They come in with checks in hand to buy the entire crop, co-op or that grain elevator. And why? Because they know what we're right at the very front door of, and that is not being able to feed our own people. Now, even beyond, Steve, and you're absolutely correct about getting the food, and do it, folks. Don't just say you're going to do it. Do it, and take whatever means you must. If you've got to put it on a credit card, do it. If you've got to eliminate a 401, do it. But if you don't do it, what are you going to do when it comes time to feed your family and you don't have it? They keep saying that other than food, if you have non-hybrid seeds that you can replenish and you can grow your own thing, then you better get back into the old way of doing it, because that may be the only way you feed your family. Fellas, we're at the cusp of it. We're at the front door.
And Doug, I just want to share something. You know, the thing is that I have been pretty much out of the food business for 10 years. I felt the Lord said, go back to your original calling and warn my people. When I saw Jesus face to face, I didn't know anything about Joseph, but he told me I'd have a Joseph's ministry. That was 40 years ago, and that I would be responsible for feeding the people. Little did I know, the more you try and help them, the more they're going to bite the hand that feeds them. Not everyone, but a lot of them. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you point blank that it's a do or die situation. Just like I met a guy, a very good friend of mine, Greg, kind of a similar background to you, and the situation is that he's one of the largest buffalo raisers in the country, and bison is better than beef, less hormones, more nutrients and stuff. And so the thing is that you can go out and buy a meal for $6 that's maybe freeze-dried, but it may have an ounce of meat, or you can buy a bison chili with 500-600 calories and 4 ounces of meat. This is the stuff I'm trying to get into the hands of people immediately. My own time frame, you guys, and people are emailing me now, what's your time frame, Steve? My time frame is we are up against the wall now, and what you can do. I had a lady today call me, you guys, and she said, will you take an 18-karat bracelet in trade gold? I said, yeah. If you want to sell it, yeah, I'll buy it from you, and I'll pay the money to Dry Harvest, and they'll ship you the food. What I'm telling people is we've all got too much junk. But when Doug, you don't know how important your article was. That article, in my opinion, set the stage for the entire future of this nation. I believe that, and I'm not kissing anybody's butt, okay? I believe that was the most seminal, the most telling and compelling. And I don't know your sources, but if he's listening, God bless you, my friend. Because, again, I want him to know, thank you. I personally, if I could thank you, I would thank you with tears in my eyes and say thank you so much. But how, Greg, do we get it across? And I prayed tonight, and I'm sure you did too. Well, we know we did. We're all praying. I mean, the intercessors are all praying for this show tonight, that, God, if you've ever granted the scales to come off people's eyes and hearts, Lord, take them off tonight, because I don't know that this isn't my last show. If if a lot of the shills on your board or your blog talk and stuff wanted their way, and by the way, I'm being told right now, Doug, that we're being censored on Google Chrome, and we're also being censored on Internet Explorer. When people are getting kicked off, it says that no connection. So this is what was indicated to me in the from the backside, Greg, from our friends, that we would be taken down. So. Correct. I'm just telling you this, that I don't know where we're up, where we're not up, but by the grace of God, please, ladies and gentlemen, understand, you will sell your birthright for food. A dad who looks into his starving children, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I'll tell you point blank, when Doug Hagman put that story out, my heart broke. It broke in two. I knew that was coming, but for your friend, and God bless him again, Doug, to come forth with that from the level he's at, I mean, hey, Greg, this isn't Greg and Steve and Doug, or Joe, Bad Time News Hour. This is coming from the horse's mouth, and you know what? These guys laugh, Doug. You know this. I have been told by amazing, powerful people, Steve, you're wasting your time. And they call even my critics dumb you-know-whats. And they say, because you're trying to save people who won't even take the first step to save themselves. Come over to our side. We at least take care of our own. And my answer to that is, you guys, is I'm on Jesus' side. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's
Steve,
right.
You were talking about earlier about Christians who are not active, and I wanted to add to this because this is something we talk about often. The way that the church has been neutered, the way that the pastors do not preach about the times that we are living in. They do not preach or teach their congregation about how the government is manipulating society. And I think that is a huge problem, and they won't do that. They won't teach that stuff. Because, a lot of them have been approached by the Department of Homeland Security as part of the clergy response teams. And that tax status does get held over their head, and a lot of preachers get scared by that, just like a lot of normal people would. But this is not the time to be scared, and any fear that these preachers or leaders of any kind of group or audience. It's not the time to have fear. There's no time left for that. And it's sad to see it happen. I see it at my own church, but we need to get the churches to get a voice and to stand strong. And if that does not happen,
it won't. And I got to tell you, Joe, it won't happen. Okay. What will happen is men and women of God, and I mean some of my most powerful intercessor friends are the ones that are close to me, and I'm telling you this, and you know, Greg, you're blessed with an amazing prayer warrior wife, but I'll tell you what, you'd rather have Liz on your side and praying because she knows how to get to heaven on your behalf than some of these limp-wristed pastors. Look, I used to go to a limp-wristed pastor, Joe, I don't know if you know the story, real quick. I gave a guy $1 million building years and years ago, and he turned out to be just one of the biggest cowards I've ever seen. So you can't, and I'm going to use a word here, but if you think about what it really means, you can't expect poultry droppings to stand up and be men, okay? If they shake hands like a wet tuna and they're more concerned with their retirement. Now, I've met a new incredible pastor. I put up his video on my website, Leo Stratham, and I mean, this guy knows how to preach the Word of God. He's the prophet, but see, there's so few of these guys out there. There's so few, and any man of God who will stand up. I have men of God who won't even stand up and bring an errant brother to task when he goes out and slams a bunch of people, and just say, look, you've got to go to your brother if you've got aught. And you can't say you forgive him if you're pissed off at him and you haven't asked him to forgive you because you basically have called into credibility and question. See, we eat our own, you guys. I'm concerned about the cannibalism that's going on in the genetically modified food, changing our DNA, turning us into a bunch of Morlocks out of the Time Machine novel. And the point is that people can't even stop eating their brethren. I got news for you. You go on a talk radio and try and lift up Jesus. You've got great white sharks and hammerheads that claim that flint sharpens flint. That's a misappropriation of the Scripture. You're a hypocritical, lying son of Belial if you think that. Flint sharpening flint means you are using both pressures to bring to a spear point that which is going to be used against the enemy of the Lord. It doesn't mean that you're to take your axe against each other's neck. Greg, I got to tell you something. I know that we're going to fight everything and anything, both seen and unseen, both on the earth, coming upon the earth, and under the earth, but it's so bloody discouraging when we've got to fight the brethren. And so when people quote, oh, Jesus said, blessed are you when all men speak evil of you. Jesus did say that. He also said, they hated me without a cause, they'll hate you without a cause. But that doesn't give Christians a license to devour one another. And that's what really, I got to tell you guys this, it's something that I still deal with God on that whole issue daily.
Wow. Steve, I want to just switch topics here. I received a message, an email message, and somebody wanted me to relay this to you, to just tell you thank you so much for your support. It is a person who you helped out, who was in a time of need, could not get his rent and could not get food, and he just wanted to say that you are a true man of God and you are a blessing, and he thanks you very much. And this is what we need to be doing.
And people have to understand, and let me interject this here. People have to understand, Steve is, and I've known Steve for the better part of a decade, almost a decade now, and I got to tell you, he would give the shirt off his back, and I'm sure he has, and he's helped me out many times. He's been a brother to me, but he walks the walk. He just doesn't talk the talk. He walks the walk. I've heard from people who have, and Steve, again, I'm not blowing smoke just to do it, but folks, just to tell you what kind of guy Steve Quayle is. I've heard from people who said, "Look, I've been in a jam. Steve has helped me." He said, "Don't worry about paying me back. Don't worry about anything, don't say anything." And Steve said, "Don't say anything. Don't tell anybody. I did this. Just keep it among ourselves here. Just catch me whenever." That's the kind of guy that we're talking about. And I'm going to tell you, I know by reputation. Greg as well, and I got to tell you, I'm sure he's the same kind of man. And look, they walk the walk; they just don't talk the talk. So, and we are so, Joe and I are so humbled to have both of you on this program. We know our time is short. We know that there may not be another chance to have either one of you or you together on this program
Doug,
or any other program.
It is an absolute joy for us to be here, and I